This is 6.3 reviewing recommendations. So, with participants in my session, I expected to only have 4, but in my actual session, I ended up with 6, which I managed to accompany for quite well. I was expecting a mixed gendered session as well, but ended up only getting male participants, which it didn't really make a difference. And I was expecting cognitive learners, and then did also get cognitive learners in the session. I feel like all of the participants listened really well and helped to perform the different drills and exercises very well. But in terms of participants, if I was going to do the session again, I would probably want maybe more autonomic learners instead, because I feel like some of the drills might have been too advanced for the participants I had. So if I was going to do it again, I would either lower the level of the session, or I would increase the level of the participants. Next is the equipment and the environment. The equipment that I used during the session was the balls, the nets, and the rackets, and the facility that I had available to me was a half sports hall. I feel like I had the right amount of courts. I feel like maybe the rackets could have been better. So again, if I was going to do the session again, I would have probably got some better equipment and maybe some different balls. But I had definitely enough and definitely enough space for all of the participants. To improve, I think I would also maybe have some of the participants help me with the setup of the equipment, because that was quite hard and it did take quite a long time to do it on my own at the start. So I'd probably do that to improve the session. Next is health and safety. For the health and safety aspect, I prepared a risk assessment when planning this session, and I would have done planning the whole series of sessions to make sure that all the participants were safe, and that if anything happened, there would be procedures in place for that. I also checked on the day that made sure everything was safe, and also made sure there were no underlying health issues and that all the equipment was safe to use. I think to improve with the safety, I probably should have let everyone know about the fire alarm procedures, because I forgot that bit to mention that at the start, and I think that would have helped keep everyone a bit more safe if I just let them know to follow my instructions. Next, we have differentiation for challenges or adaptations. I did have to adapt my session a bit because obviously I had more participants than I thought. So, and I also had more time than I thought I was going to have. So I had to add a more competitive environment at the end to kind of fill in the time. And that made it challenging for all the performers, but it also made it a bit more fun. And I think that they would have enjoyed it more than if they just kept going with the last drill. I think it worked better with the adaptations. And it was a team game, and I think the group enjoyed that more. It's also more appropriate because it's more game realistic with the competitive environment, and it raises arousal levels, which is better for some participants because it can also increase their performance. And it also provides a challenge for them, and I think that they enjoyed it. To improve, I would probably have planned the session a little bit better and got the timing a little bit better, so I didn't have to resort to adapting right at the end and having a different sort of layout to the session. If I had planned it better with more time, I could have fit in more drills that could have been more effective in getting resulting in the session aims. Next is progression, skills, tactics, and fitness. I slowly progressed the forehand and the split step during my session. Progressed with just the playtime and the warm up and got everyone involved. And then with the tactic approaching the net, I had different progressive drills, which meant that I taught them the tactic and then they managed to get the hang of it going through those drills with the condition situation. And then with fitness at the end, with the top court having a full court, meant that there was a bigger fitness demand. So the players had to run around more, obviously, and it just made it a little bit harder, which was a better progression for the fitness. And during the whole series of sessions, uh, the progression would be that we would start doing harder drills with the skills and teaching more difficult tactics that they would understand as they progress as players. And the fitness demand, there are in my series sessions which is more focused on fitness, which would increase that demand. But to improve, I would probably have do a bit less time on each drill, but have more progressions of that drill. I think that would be more. I think that would just be better for the participants because then they would be able to grasp the concept of the skill tactic, so that they could then perform it better. The next factor is benchmarks and measures. I had benchmarks set throughout the series plan, uh, with mainly coach devised benchmarks to track the progression of each performer. That was pretty much through feedback and watching the players play their shots and see if they are getting close to the series aims or the session aim. And I could see also by at the end of the session getting feedback from them if they knew the coaching points, and I could see that they were if they were able to do the skills and understand the tactics effectively, then those were the kind of my coach devised benchmarks and methods. But to improve upon the series and the sessions, I'd probably have more benchmarks or more measures so that I could measure progression better, maybe with quantitative data and set it out in a table so that I could actually track the progression without just having it all in my head. I think that would have been a bit better for the entire series. And then the session and series aims. The session aims are to have the performer to learn and complete the tactic of approaching the net and the skill of the split step. I feel like all of the players managed to achieve this session aim and that it helped. Once they had that aim, it would have helped them in the entire series aim, which was for them to be able to construct a point using the skills and tactics involved to approach the net and win a point. And this session was a big part of that. But to improve on the session and series aims, I would probably have broken down this session aim and maybe put less in this session. I feel like there was quite a lot of information, and I would have spread it out because this one is quite a lot of the main series aim is in this session here. So I feel like maybe I could have split that down more so that the performers had less information to take in, so that they wouldn't have been too overwhelmed with it. Overall, with the whole series of sessions, I feel like I made a good order when I laid them out, so performers could progress in the way that I wanted them to, so that they started off with the easier skills, which would form a basis for the harder ones, and then once they got those, then moving on to tactics, and then finally into competitive situations with match play. And with the session aims, they were able to recall and understand the coaching points and the tactics, meaning that I think the participants understood everything, and the coaching points I gave obviously stuck with them, and they were able to recall them, and I think that they were able to show that in their playing. But to improve the entire series, I think that maybe I would have done more fitness based and more kind of just tactical based sessions. I feel like a lot of them had a lot of different components, but if I'd kind of split the fitness, skill, and tactic components into different sessions, it would have been more effective and the performers would have learned more from that. So I think that's one way that I could improve if I was to do the series again. Um, Starting off with the introduction to the session, I had the equipment in the right place and I communicated the aims to the participants and organised people into where they needed to be to then start the warm up. At the start, I think I did forget to mention any of the safety things, and I feel like that was a big thing that I would definitely do differently. I would make sure that I made them understand that if they had any underlying health issues or if they did, or explain to them the fire alarm procedure, I think that would have been better. It definitely would have been better and would have been much more safe. So I feel like I definitely should have done that. For the warm up, I did a pulse raise. I led the run, which I think was a mistake. I feel like I should have been at the back of the pack just to make sure that everyone was behaving and that everyone was doing the actual warm up like they should have. I did lead the dynamic stretches. That was just to make sure that everyone knew what they were doing so that I could kind of teach them through it. And then I got everyone, all the participants, rallying in the boxes and walked around and was kind of analysing the level of the participants and seeing how good they were, which was a bit of measuring. For the isolated practice, I got the participants to hit on their forehand side, and then I kind of gave a bit of feedback to some of the players after seeing their techniques, and then I made a couple of coaching points. I do think that to improve it, it could have lasted a bit longer because obviously I did have time at the end, which I had to kind of make up on the spot extra drills. So if I'd planned it better, I could have had the warm up lasting a bit longer so that the players could kind of get their muscles warmed up, and that would have prevented any give further prevention to any injuries. The condition situations, the participants had to try and use the split step. I um, I did the coaching points just before, in between the isolated practice and the condition situation. And with this condition, if they got to the net and finished the point with a volley, then they did get double points. That added a little bit of a competitive advantage as well, but it was mainly conditioned to kind of get them. It kind of put emphasis that they should try and come into the net to win the point. And then also the winners moved up the court and the losers moved down, which did give a bit of a competitive element, and also separated maybe some of the more advanced players. So they were at the top court playing more advanced, and some of the less advanced were playing people that were more their level, which sorted out quite nicely and was quite good. Then I did the competitive situations. Uh, the group split into two teams. The competitive game was you'd have both teams at each end, and one player from each team would come. They'd play a point, and if whoever lost would go off, and the next player on the team would come on. I think the participants enjoyed this drill. It gave a bit of team spirit and a bit of bonding between the participants, which I thought was good, and I thought it motivated them to win a bit more, seeing as they were doing it for their whole team and not just themselves. It also incorporated some of the less advanced and some of the more advanced players together, so that everyone was kind of playing together. Next, then we did the cool down. I did a small jog around the court where again I was at the front, and I do think if I was going to do the session again, I should have been at the back to make sure that everyone was behaving. And then we did some dynamic stretching again before we did the plenary. I feel like the cool down was slightly rushed again due to time concerns. Um, but um, but it was important because it would cools the muscles down, and then obviously helps to prevent any injuries, and also gets lactic acid out of the body. And then we did a plenary at the end of the session where I got the group together and we recalled some of the coaching points, and that helped to emphasize me that they had um, understood all the drills, and I could see that they were able to to uh, to complete them. Um, so also having them give me that feedback, knowing that they had completed the session aim was good, because then that could be used as a benchmark to show that all participants completed that. It's a way to measure it. And then I got them to collect up the equipment safely, and made sure that it was all stored away in the correct place.